Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you guys how you can add a cool 3D perspective text effect to your website. Now here I have a text which, as you can see, it's kind of sort of like in an angle to the screen, and also basically has a bit of depth to it. But then when I start scrolling, you would see that some more text sort of start flowing in, and it's pretty nice and cool effect. And as you can see that you can scroll all the way and then read the entire thing. So it's a pretty cool way of showcasing your CSS skills to the users. And I think it's not just text, you can also add images and stuff and have more like a skewed sort of a gallery if you want. So it's a pretty cool effect that you guys can use your own creativity and then basically bring out something different and creative. So this is what we're going to be learning in this video. The source code is in the description so you guys can download and play with it. So without delay, let's get started and let's learn to build this. So here I'm in my index.html file where I have the boilerplate for the HTML. I have some styling, so I've added the bricolage grotesque font. I've removed the default margin and padding. I've set the box sizing as border box, some styling to the body like width 100%. Also basically setting up the font weight, background color, and then having overflow as hidden on the x-axis. Now the body is empty, so let's add some HTML content within that. So to hold everything, we're going to be having a container div within which we're going to be having our scroll container, which is the actual container which we're going to be scrolling. And then we have the content text within which we have the actual content. So I've just generated some stuff using AI. So just added that. We're using a bunch of p tags with breaks just so that they look a bit pretty. Let's save, and this is how it renders. All right, so the HTML is done. Let's add the CSS just so that we can have the 3D perspective look of this. Let's start with the container. So the container is going to have a height of 300 viewport height, and then we're going to have the position of relative, since we're going to be having some stuff. It's absolutely, but I think it should be fine even if you don't add it. Should be fine because the scroll container would be fixed, so I don't think this is needed. But yeah, so this height, 300 viewport height, now you may think, why do we need it? The reason for that is this would basically generate some extra space or height to scroll. So if you don't have a height, you won't have any room to scroll, and if you're not able, if you're basically not able to scroll, you wouldn't see the effect. So you can add whatever height you're comfortable. Here I just added 300 viewport height. You could increase or decrease, it just depends on how you want to do it. After that, we have the scroll container, which is the actual thing when we're going to be placing it as position fixed, and we're going to be giving the width and height in m's. Now what is m basically are in respect to the parent, basically, or basically from where it inherits the font size. So by default, since I haven't really set any font size, actually, so this takes in the font of since by default we have 16 pixels, so currently this is 16 pixels. Now if I increase the font size here, the value of m would obviously increase. So there's that. And then we want to place it bottom 0, left 50%, and here we increase the font size to 350%, 350. And then we have text align as justify, transform origin as 50% and 100%. Now this basically is needed to align it at the center. And then we have the transform property, wherein we have translate x as -50%. And then we have the perspective, which adds the depth to our HTML. So even though I added that, you won't be able to see it. Now, as soon as I add this rotate X as 20 degrees, you can actually see the UI. So this is how it looks. So it's pretty, so it's already taking the shape. Next thing that you want to do is you want to target the content text, and then the content text would be placed absolutely with width as 100%. Basically take the entire width of the parent, and then the top portion would be sort of 80%. So this container, or this div, basically helps us to basically um, have the text position. So we could have added the text directly inside of this, which wouldn't be that efficient, but yeah. So there's that. So we have the HTML and the CSS ready. Now, even when we scroll, we don't see the text getting, I mean, the text which is somewhere out of the screen basically doesn't flow in. So for that, we need simple JavaScript. So let's add the script tag. Oh, also, just before starting that, we added some basically linear gradient font color. So which is this. If you want, you can add. If you don't want, it's fine. Now let's start with the script tag. The script tag, the first thing that we do is grab onto the content. So we have the content text div. We save it in the content div, and then we listen to the scroll event. So as when we start scrolling, what we do is we get the scroll progress, basically how far we basically have scrolled. So window dot page y offset basically gives you how far you have scrolled, but then we want the value in percentage. So we have this. Now what we need to do is, instead of having it in a pixelated value, we want it somewhere between 0 and 1. So here it basically gives us the actual height, or how far we have scrolled, but we want the value somewhere from 0 to 1. So what we have to do is we just have to divide it by the total um, scrollable height. Now, the way we find that is by, first we find the total height of the entire document, which is document.document element.scroll height, which gives you the entire height. But you need to keep in mind that we are only able to scroll when the content of the page is at least 1 pixel more than 100 viewport height. So basically, whatever is the screen size, if you have content at least 1 pixels more than that, only then the scroll bar shows up. Else, if it is less than the screen size, it won't show up. So we need to subtract the screen size. The way we get that is window.innerHeight, which is basically the inner size of the screen. So this basically gives you the how far you've scrolled um, in between 0 to 1. And then what we do is we set this as the top position. So here we set the top position of the content as 80% by default. So initially when we start off, the top top position of the content would be 80%, but when we start scrolling, we want it to sort of translate. So the way we do it is we basically subtract it by the scroll progress that we just made. Now, if I save, let's refresh. Now, when I start scrolling, you would see the text basically moves moves forward. Now, this is not exactly what we want. We want to show the entire content. So we need to scale this up a bit. So here, this value, which I've just multiplied to the scroll progress, you might have to just play around and figure out, according to the content, how much you need just to get this pixel perfect. By that, I mean, so in my case, when I multiply it by 100, it basically reaches to the end. In your case, depending on how much content you have, you might want to add something like 80, or I don't know. So if I add 80 here, you'd see that it doesn't really cover the entire content. So in my case, I've just added 100, so it should be fine. So now when I refresh and I start scrolling, you can see that we have the text basically flowing forward. And this is a pretty cool effect that we can integrate into your site. Now, one more thing that you guys can play around is you can also play with the perspective or the rotate X value to basically play around with how much you want your text to be rotated. Now, in case if I change this to, let's say, 50 degrees, you'd see that now the angle changed drastically, and you might want to revert that because that doesn't look good. Also, you might want to play with the perspective. See? So yeah, that's basically it for this video. Hope this was fun. So I've been busy with a side project of mine, which I'm gonna be showing you guys in a couple of weeks. It's gonna be really fun, and I think you guys would love that as well. And yeah, hopefully I should be able to finish it in a few weeks. Yeah, that's it for this video. The source code is gonna be in the description, so download, play with it, and yeah, meet you guys in the next video. Till then, take care. Bye.